Millions of students face board exams every single year, right? But if we peek behind the curtain at the data, it turns out they aren't just buried in textbooks. No, they are consuming this absolutely sprawling, multi-million view digital ecosystem of survival strategies. We're not just talking about regular online tutoring here. We're looking at a highly optimized, chronological syllabus of pure survival techniques. In this explainer, we're going to analyze their viewing habits and the exact content they binge to literally map out the psychological roller coaster of an entire academic year. To really wrap our heads around the sheer scale of this whole thing, just look at this single video promising a 90% in 30 days strategy. It's got 11 million views. 11 million! I mean, that is literally the population of a small country, all tuning in, desperately hoping to cram an entire year's worth of physics or math into just 1 month. And the creators running this space? We're talking massive education channels boasting up to 14.2 million subscribers. They aren't just teachers anymore. They're digital megastars, guiding a colossal audience. What the data tells us is that modern exam prep is way less about reading a textbook in isolation and so much more about plugging into this broadcasted curriculum designed to, well, completely hack the exam system itself. And the stakes here are incredibly high, and honestly, it gets intensely emotional. When you see creators dropping video titles like, "Enough is enough, I do not trust CBSE now," and they rack up nearly 1 million views in a matter of days, it really shows us that these platforms aren't just for academics. Students are navigating immense pressure. So when systemic issues pop up, the exact same platforms they use to find study hacks instantly transform into these massive sounding boards for their collective panic and distrust. To make sense of this, we're going to break this chronological journey down into 5 distinct phases: early planning, last-minute panic, exam hall tactics, brain hacks and motivation, and finally, post-exam realities. Kicking things off with Phase 1, early planning, or what we like to call the optimistic start. If we track the student mindset across an entire year, we see this absolutely fascinating decay from pure optimism down to gritty pragmatism. At the start of the year, millions of students are super optimistic, watching Class 12 starting plans, aiming for that perfect 90%. And the strategies here are incredibly comprehensive. They break down the whole syllabus chapter by chapter based on historical weightage, draft up these intense toppers timetables, and commit to 4 to 6 hours of rigorous daily self-study. They really want that rock-solid foundation. But as the months slip by, the content shifts radically. By mid-year, the focus narrows down to the only strategy you need. Hit the 30-day mark, it's the last month strategy. And by the time exam day arrives, the focus shrinks entirely down to just paper presentation. So we end up seeing a really stark contrast between 2 totally distinct academic mindsets in this digital space. On one side, you've got the methodical planner. Their whole approach is rooted in traditional hard work, binging videos on how to go from beginner to topper. They're all about comprehensive syllabus coverage, mastering those complex multi-step concepts, and stubbornly sticking to that daily planner. But on the flip side, as the clock ticks and desperation sets in, you find the panicked student hunting for borderline illegal study hacks. The goal totally shifts from actually mastering the subject to just gaming the system. Suddenly, there's massive engagement on videos teaching stuff like the Pomodoro method on absolute steroids, active recall tricks to just memorize facts without actually understanding them, and wild shortcuts on how to study so fast it feels like cheating. Brings us right into Phase 2, last-minute panic, the 30-day dash. While those long-term planning videos definitely gather decent engagement, viewership absolutely explodes when a 30-day miracle is put on the table. Sure, we see millions of views on videos addressing the total regret of a ruined previous year, and millions more for a solid starting plan. But the undisputed king of engagement? The 30-day dash. Why? Well, because procrastination is universal, and panic is a wildly powerful motivator. In this phase, the strategy completely transforms. Deep comprehension of the syllabus is thrown out the window. Instead, the game plan is all about abandoning textbooks entirely. It becomes a mad dash to aggressively filter the last 10 years of past papers, zero in on the highest frequency recurring questions, and rely on pure, unadulterated memorization just to secure those specific marks. Now let's look at Phase 3, exam hall tactics, or surviving the paper. What's really incredible about the climax of this whole journey is that these strategies barely even mention the actual subject matter anymore. Content creators start treating the exam hall like a literal tactical battlefield, emphasizing 3 critical steps just to survive. Step 1 is time management. And the strategy here is unbelievably precise. They'll dictate exactly how many minutes you should spend per mark, like strictly allocating 1.5 minutes for a 1-mark question, just so you never leave a page blank. Step 2 is paper presentation, which is basically hacking the psychology of the examiner. Tactics include boxing your final answers, leaving a very specific number of lines between your paragraphs, and strategically underlining keywords so a tired grader can just spot it, tick it, and move on. Finally, step 3 is avoiding mistakes. This focuses entirely on the mental game, managing your breathing and sidestepping that terrifying panic of your mind going completely blank when you read that very first question. Moving on to phase 4, brain hacks and motivation, the extremes. When standard studying just isn't cutting it anymore, students turn to some incredible extremes. I mean, we are talking about 2-hour-long audio tracks of 40 Hz binaural gamma waves with millions of views promising ultra-deep concentration. Students are quite literally trying to hack their own brain frequencies just to absorb information faster. And then there's the emotional support system, these highly produced, super intense exam motivation videos serving as pure psychological rocket fuel to keep exhausted students awake at 2 a.m. The language dominating this corner of the internet, using words like illegal, cheating, and studying less, really highlights this desperate, intense desire to just find some sort of edge and bypass the grueling work that traditional studying demands. And finally, phase 5, post-exam realities, the aftermath. You'd think the anxiety would vanish the second the final bell rings, right? Well, not exactly. Recent news reports, like a major controversy where a board actually had to admit a mistake in a student's final 12th grade result, show us that the stress persists well beyond the exam hall. Think about it. After months of relying on intense strategies, hacking brainwaves, and perfecting paper presentation formats, a student's entire fate is just handed over to a massive institutional system. When that system makes a highly publicized error, it feeds directly back into that exact same anxiety and mistrust we saw at the very beginning of the year. For the students, it's proof that the battle isn't truly over until that final, verified mark sheet is sitting right in their hands. So we've traced the entire journey, from those disciplined, syllabus-heavy planners right through the desperate 30-day past paper dashes and the 40 Hz brainwaves, all the way to the systemic controversies at the very end. The numbers are totally undeniable, millions upon millions of views. It is a fascinating, highly structured world that provides undeniable support, community, and tactical survival skills to students who feel completely overwhelmed. But it also creates this massive feedback loop where extreme pressure just becomes the daily norm. It's an incredible digital phenomenon, and understanding it gives us a really profound look into the modern student experience. So the big question we have to ask at the end of this explainer is this: does this huge abundance of strategy actually help students score higher, or does it merely fuel and monetize their anxiety?